And this is Trekland HQ. I'm going to bring the mic closer because how about that? And we are live, hopefully. Yes. Hijabis, humanism, history, and a Star Trek unboxing today on Trekland Tuesdays Live. Yes, number 226. Can it be? Yeah, it is Dr. Trekler and Machak coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 and Trekland Treks for some sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek. And I mean that today. And as I'm sitting here, before we wade in, I want to say welcome to everybody. If you are new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thanks for being here. Hey, you want to jump in on the chat. And remember, if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch, you're going to see everything. If you're only on Facebook, you're only going to see the Facebook chat, okay? Just to say. Plus, if you're on YouTube, you can avail yourself of our super chat feature, which means that you can throw a little Federation credit my way, and I will make sure and get to your question sooner. But that is to say that the veterans know I'm going to start off here on a soapbox that you've got the hint for already. And I'll be on that first. We'll take a short break. Then I will come back and do the chat. I will wait in then. Okay. So I'm not ignoring the chat up front. I will get to it. In fact, we will circle around and I will rescroll everybody. So it is another Tuesday. Wow. So yes, we've got the writers back at work. We've got the actors talking, which is great. And this is all happening much faster than a lot of people thought it would happen. So people have been out on a strike for 5 months in the case of the writers. So that's awesome. We've got Lower Decks happening. We're heading into the fall. New York Comic Con is just around the corner. That'll be some headlines and more news. And yes, Lower Decks is happening. And you know, I do a little segment, do a piece here on Trekland the last couple of years called Second Opinion. I think we're up to 32 or 33 now. And they are meant to be what I don't always do here, which is a actual reaction, not a review so much, but a reaction. And not a hot take or a quick take, but a second opinion from Dr. Trek. If you watch Second Opinion, you know what I mean. And they're usually out on Second Opinion Saturdays, just it's a hashtag. And I missed something in the in empathological fallacies, which was the Betazoid show, right? Now, I missed something, apparently, because I did my bit. It's been up for a week, but the interwebs blew up to some degree, and I saw some people that weren't aware of this, but things blew up a bit over one particular background feature that had nothing to do with the main plot of the episode of empathological fallacies. Namely, an officer in a hijab. Our friend here, nameless. Now, this, I don't know, this was a big deal to some people on 2 or 3 fronts. Now, I'm going to try to be fair here. I just want to say, number one, I'll save that for later. Apparently, 2 things. One, the issue of headgear, and 2, even more importantly, the issue of religion. Now, I'm going to bow out here for a second. So it's a hijab. It's a Muslim. Not all Muslim women in their cultures ask that they be worn, and sometimes they're huge, and they go all the way from full-length burqa here, right, to nothing at all, to the headpiece, to a very light scarf, and a lot of Muslim women, nothing. That's 2073. What set off a lot of fandom were a lot of people, and there was a pushback and a backlash about this. And a lot of people thought this was anti-Muslim talk. A lot of people thought this was misogynistic because it was a woman. A lot of people were out there just saying, no, this is Star Trek. There is no religion. There's no human earth religion, right? That's what Gene wanted. This is Gene's vision. No religion is going to cloud, but we've outgrown religion. And that was kind of a spectrum of reaction. Then you had, of course, a lot of people saying, well, no, wait, whoa, this, pushing back and saying this smacks of being anti-Muslim, this smacks of being all kinds of things. And then you even had the people that said, oh my God, Gene's dead. Give it up. So there was this whole smattering of pushback here. Now, I just want to say that if you watched my second opinion from Empathological Fallacies, and if you haven't, why not? It's right there on my YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. I didn't mention this at all. When I was watching the episode, I thought, oh, look, there she is again. What mystified me about this reaction, because there she is again, she immediately went into my big tank of 4,700 things that I could comment on each episode, but I don't. You can only pick so many. And I go with my gut reaction. If it intrigues me, if it flicks a red flag, if it's right in my face, if it makes me laugh, like a favorite line or a favorite moment, that's what I react to. That's what I comment on. That's what my second opinion is. And what I try to make second opinion, like with everything at Trekland, as you all hear me preach, and hopefully I live up to this, I try not to have it be the same old, same old. I try not to be just part of the pack. Now, look, a lot of times I overlap still. I'm commenting on this today because I feel the need to. And in part because this has gone on so long. Because I did second opinion. It comes out on Saturday. There was a moment or two where I thought, we're working and editing and said, oh, should I go back and add something about this controversy, this hijab hassle? And I thought, well, no, by the time I get around to saying something, this will be yesterday's news. And what's amazing to me is this is one of those things that people either have their teeth into or they've got their teeth into the people with it. I mean, this has lasted several days. Now, maybe that's just the wave effect because the entire world, shock of shocks, is not all online together at the same waveframe. Some people are the tip of the spear. Some people don't live their whole life on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or X, and they don't look at it till the weekend. They don't look at it till they get around to it 3 or 4 days later. Okay? So I get that. But I still see people talking about this Sunday, Monday, yes, Tuesday, or always. No, that's an old song. So I thought, okay, should I address it in the next SO? No, I think I'll do it here. I think I'll do it here. Only because this has gone on so long and it wasn't just something that blew up and went away. Because here's what I wanted to say. No, I didn't talk about it on my second opinion. Because again, to me, when I saw Miss Ensign Lieutenant, can't see, her pips are covered up. Miss Ops, with a hijab, she'd been before. In fact, part of my reaction to the reactors was, well, where have you been? What, have you been asleep? I can value judge what you're saying, but my first thing is what? She had to be, I'm sorry, don't you watch? It's like, don't you watch Lower Decks? Don't you know that there are Easter eggs all over the place? And for me, what threw me out of my chair was second season, Excretus, right? The simulation gal. She is coming in with the simulations, right? And you got this huge view of the whole crew. I'm gonna yeah. So I'm going to leave that large just for a second. You can look around, and of course, you can spot your regulars. There's all kinds of people here. And finally, people who are distinctive, some of the other non-human races that do stick out. It's a rainbow out there. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to trim it in here. There she is right there. There she is. There she is. But what really got, so that's her first appearance. This was early in second season. She's been on 3 more times since in the background. Why now? I don't know. But just because it was so prominently featured, I don't know. But I just want to, part of me wants to just say, well, where have you been? Oh, you'll Easter egg if it's, the collector's ship. You'll Easter egg if it's a 50-pound Spock, 50-foot Spock. No, what's crazy, this is also maybe the first time we saw Taylor the Gazenti. I mean, there's the first time I saw a lot of people in here who you can go back and find it. But here's the other thing. For this discussion, here's obviously a Hindu crew member with his turban. I mean, come on, guys. Yeah. And what's amazing is he was in the pilot. He was there right as Tindy got off her shuttle for the Cerritos to check aboard for the first time. So again, maybe we've just got an awful lot of people who are not paying attention. We've got an awful lot of people who are shallow, no matter what they're going to say. But part of my reaction to this episode was, wait, what? A, you're making an issue out of our hijab-wearing officer, but she's been around before. If you're going to make an issue, why didn't you do it back then? In fact, if this, now here's the thing. I get it about the fact that this might be about thinking that Gene's original take on, we've outgrown religion, that in many ways throughout history, in a lot of ways throughout history, whatever, this is the equal opportunity root of evil, that almost every, I should say, maybe, major religion, has been the cause of conflict. Religion's fighting religion and not doing well by supposedly the prophet that they're following, or whatever the holy book that they're following. People have said that for centuries. Oh yeah, well, the big problem with religion is, the wars that it starts here on Earth, which supposedly if we bypass that past World War III, met the Vulcans, developed warp drive, we would not. Gene's whole premise was that if we stop blowing ourselves up, killing ourselves, and killing the planet, if we don't stop that in real time, we'll never get to a Star Trek future. So that's what since day one has been the hopeful subtext, right? We just know. Now, we didn't always know the backstory. We've gradually been filling that in. We've got the eugenics wars. We got World War III, sadly. A lot of people are totally happy not to relive the prime timeline. And if there's temporal messing around, maybe we won't have to. That's a headache, but I won't go there today. What I'm saying is, part of this supposition that religion doesn't exist anymore is that it's not a factor in hate, in sowing divisionness. For the good that religion does, spreading love and joy and hate and acceptance, and in some ways, it sounds far-fetched at times in 2023, hopefully not in 2073, but in 2023, that religion is a force for good only, without negative consequences. And we do actually live our version of infinite diversity and infinite combinations, and understanding the beauty of that. As some people would say, in some faiths, like the beauty of creation, right? The diversity as the beauty of creation. Well, that's the uplifting side of what some people take from holy books. What I'm saying here is that in the 60s, it was very easy in a world where the censors were squashing diversity anyway. That was one thing that worked. The issue of religion like that didn't come up unless it was an alien religion, and then it could be an allegory and all of that. And that transcended the original series. That swept over into Next Generation. You had the aliens. As in DS9, we had the whole thing about the Bajoran religion. So again, it's like everything else is DS9. When we have these tropes about we all get along, we're all at peace, well, we have a lot of interpersonal friction going on too. But the whole point of DS9 was to show humanity at the center of a federation and how human-centric is it. Mixing. It's the Dodge City. It's the Casablanca of mixing cultures. Ferengi, Klingons, Romulans, you name it, Bajorans, on down the line. And then, of course, Voyager was all about meeting them week after week in a quadrant we didn't know anybody. And then Enterprise was just having your little baby human notions challenged after week anyway. So it's not that religion has been absent from Star Trek. It's supposedly been absent from good old human-centric Earth, unfortunately centric Federation stories. And basically people would agree that Gene's point here, and Gene was a secular humanist by the end of the time. He was born actually Jewish. But that there is a point to that. And that was part of the appeal, that when people look around the world and see Catholic Protestant, Northern Ireland and the Mideast, and we see the India-Pakistan, flashpoints, and you see even the tribal warfares in Africa, and then much less what's happening, the schisms, even in the majority Christian places like the U.S., and the role that religion is playing in mainstream politics and all of that. You can see why one of the breathing spots Gene would say is that, well, we've outgrown this. And then you go down the line, having computers as gods, and can Kurt fast talk them? Can his successors on the Cerritos fast talk them? All of that. And then we get back into some of those debates when you have things like the Secular Federation and the Bajoran fundamentalism. And remember, not all Vedic Wynn, later Kai Wynn's sect, was the fundamentalist. Bareil, who was equally popular, was the more moderate conciliatory one that tried to have the big tent. So again, kudos on that development for not being a black and white issue even there, right? Because it's texture, not trivia. So what's at stake here are people. Yes, I am sure there is a racist element to this, but I think there are people of good faith who are upset, as with other aspects of canon, smart holocoms and touchscreens in the 2250s. I think there's a lot of people of conscience who are just upset that there's that much religious display at all. But I would just say, again, why her now? Why not our Hindu gentleman at the same time, who's also been on screen? And even more so, and I want to get out of the way here, I keep calling him our Hindu gentleman. Did you know this? He's been around so long. In that same Simulations episode, he got a name. That's Arjun, everybody. These were awesome. These little scorecards were awesome because a lot of characters got named. Look, our blue-skinned original, our blue dewy-eared blue Star Trek 6 aliens that now we've got at least 3 members of. Our main guy is Merp. That's why we got Big Merp later. And now we've got Sleepy Merp for the woman. Female, apparently representing female. These are awesome. Go back to iExcredus and check them out. There's lots of names in here that you didn't know about. You'll recognize the face. They got to name a lot of those mystery aliens from that big crew picture. And by the way, Mike McMahon told us at our open house, Portal 47, a couple years ago, that crew shot, right? The crew shot was not the entire crew, that some people still were at station. So don't count all those bodies and say, oh, the Cerritos has 110 crew members or whatever it was. That's not accurate. But what is accurate is that our Hindu friend, apparently practicing, has been around so long that he's had a name. Our hijabi wearing lady, not yet. Hijab, I should say. I keep trying to pluralize it. So not yet. What's still at stake here are the people that say, well, okay, fine, whoever it is, no religion in Star Trek. I just want to point out a couple things. If you go back far enough, Gene was, people say, well, this isn't Gene. This isn't his doing. I just want to bring up a couple of things. We can talk about, I don't know, mentions, right? Kirk met Helen Noel at a science lab Christmas party. Okay, Christmas mention. The verbiage is still there. At one time on a planet bringing in tons of gifts, Chakotay is trying to find a place to put down some wacky gifts from an alien world, and Janeway says it looks like Christmas morning in here. Okay, there's 2. I would even say go back to Next Generation, which I know Gene was gone by then. And on the day that Keiko and O'Brien got married, according to data, some aboard who practiced were observing the Hindi Festival of Light. That's a famous example. They don't come up often, but they do, including the motion picture when Gene very much was alive and sprinkled throughout the crew on the rec deck, which was so awesome. There were at least 3, if not more, Native American crewmen who were representing in their cultural and spiritual garb, their headdress, which has a spiritual component to it. She may have been the only female. There were at least 2 males, again, presenting. But that's motion picture. That was very much Gene. Here's the kicker. And this is one of those things that 20 years goes by or 30 years goes by and you go, what? Back on That Which Survives, original series, when Sulu was on the planet and off the bridge and they needed the helmsman to have speaking lines, we had a guest character one time, an actress named Naomi Pollock. It took years of having a decent enough TV. Can you see there? Can you see? Huge mea culpa. I want to go back to my friend that we have been talking about this entire show. Oh my God. My apologies to everyone. I may even re-edit this episode. No, I want to go back to our crew here. I want to go back to our crew where we first talked about our hijab. Our friend over here with the turban, yes, is Sikh. My apologies. There's my waspy upbringing hitting me. In fact, no, I did realize it on my own. I don't know if you all have been screaming at me in the chat. I just want to say huge, huge apologies there. No, we've got a hijab wearing officer in the crew, and we have our Sikh friend here with his turban. Again, though, who has been here since the pilot. All right. And yes, who's got the name Arjun. That's been there since day one. Now, what I want to get to, though, was, as I was saying, yes, Radha appears to be Hindu with a bindi. This is 3rd season. Now, you might say, well, Gene wasn't running everything hands-on. It was Fred Freiberger then. Well, they were still around. There were still the checks in place. But why? The actress is Naomi Pollock. She's Jewish. It's not like the actress was bringing in her faith here. Oh, it's an interesting question. Now, look, as I just wanted to throw that out to say, part of this whole discussion is we may be seeing, boom, we may be seeing all this through 2023 eyes, just as we look at our science, just as we look at, warp drive can't happen. Well, it can't happen right now. We're allowing 200, 300 years in the future for things to evolve. I mean, we're watching Star Trek stories basically about us in space. No one is assuming that the development of humanity sociologically, psychologically, even biologically is going to look like us in the real, assuming we live that long. Let's hope we do. We survive a civilization and we actually do some of this. Whatever form outreach takes and first contact and all this, we don't look like, we look at Shakespearean plays and have to really jump through hoops just to look at how people lived, much less talked and behaved 400 years ago. And the way some things are universal, obviously, when you're talking about Shakespeare, the Bible stories, any of the ancient texts and books that we see, very human things going on there. But then over time, as we have hopefully shed superstition, as we've hopefully shed more overt warlike tendencies, that's been as Gene would say, the human adventure is just beginning. We were a baby species still. we got to leave some wiggle room, not just on the tech and the science, but on attitudes too. And we already see this. The quotes about Christmas morning and the Christmas party, we do it right now. We have cultural more than religious celebrations. Now, does that transcend to our Sikh friends still having turbans? To our some Muslim? Not all Muslims women wear hijab now. So part of my reaction to the reaction has been, where have you been? You're not following along very closely, are you? But even given that, why the blow up about her not paying attention? Okay, fine. But why the blow up now? Not paying attention all along? No, it's not in your face. No, we don't have little boxes where the Catholics and the Methodists and the Baptists and the Muslims and the Jews we don't have. That's not regimented like when you come into the new town with the Chamber of Commerce map and here's all your places of worship. No, it's not like that in Star Trek. Hey, we live in a 23rd century here where baseball is like a little is like a little resurrectionist, a little recreationist cult. It's like Civil War recreating, or World War II recreating, or whatever. Society created act. It's like medieval recreation. Now, I'm not going to say that, but I'm saying the numbers participating in baseball, apparently, unless we've had a huge comeback since Cisco's time just in the last 30 years, there's all kinds of historical cultural things that, okay, they didn't die, but they're still in a celebrated little small space. There are lots of people that smile when they see a little kid open a Christmas present that aren't practicing Christians or hardcore practicing Christians. And that goes for all the faiths of the world. So, assuming that some of the pushback to our hijab officer are just people who are slow to the game, and that they are not virulently anti-racist, anti-Muslim. If they're sincerely talking about religion in the 23rd and 24th centuries, as opposed to what they perceived Gene's philosophy to be, well, there's that. There's that. We saw the signs, even the cracks in the wall, even the texture not trivia, during his time and after. And it's still not an overt part of everyday life. There was still a chapel on the original Enterprise, interdenominational, interfaith to be sure, but there was still a chapel on the original Enterprise. Now, maybe that's something that has dissipated in the 100 years between Kirk's time and Picard's time. That at some point, that might be an interesting whatever to follow. Maybe Strange New Worlds goes there. Strange New Worlds had elements of faith. Pike is supposedly descended from a family of believers. So that's why the New Eden episode initially had some resonance there. And then with the change up in showrunners, that whole thread went away as season 2 Discovery went along. And as we got to the end and had thought we'd met Pike and even Spock out of his illness, and even number 1, that had not become a dominant thread of the themes. But that was even part of Discovery season 2 for a hot minute. So, and it will always be part of the themes that are part of New Eden, the second episode of the season. So this has been an interesting time. I would just say that those who are upset, those who are watching upset people, just to be a little broader minded, in some folks are totally zeroed in on, this is another thing of all ships should have 2 nacelles, not 1. You may not see it that way. That may be cold tech, and this may be very humanistic and all about the people. But some people in fandom will view it that way. Now, not everybody. And unfortunately, I'm sure there's a lot of racism. There's probably a lot of anti-Muslim thought out there that's behind some of this. Some of it I'm going to say isn't. So what I'm just saying to everybody is, this is not new. Her character, much less our Sikh friend, have been on the Cerritos, for one example, since almost the beginning. And if you really look at the nooks and crannies of Star Trek, we've had mentions and even physical appearances of celebrations of religions. And even then, if the religion is tied up with a culture, people not making moves to excise that. Our hijab wearing lady might be the exact same as our crew that were wearing their Native American headdress. Now, yes, it's 100 years earlier, but coming out of the same well. I guess my bottom line here is the fact that there's just been this huge, there's a lot of nuance here, is what I'm saying. But the basic line, once again, is nothing is new. None of this is new. It's not new whether you're looking at a span of 2 or 3 years for these particular characters on Lower Decks, or if you look at the broad swath. And yes, it's not majority, but it's there. Infinite diversity, infinite combinations. If we see huge hordes of stampeding crusaders or barbarians at the gate, they're tending to be factions of Romulans or Klingons or Dominion changelings. They're not coming from Earth. They're not coming from, well, hopefully they're not coming from Andor or Vulcan, some of the home worlds. What Gene perceived is pretty much still the truth. And nobody should be feeling threatened, especially among human natives, Earth natives, of anything like that happening. All right. That's what I wanted to say on that. Along with, my huge apologies for confusing one of the major faiths in the world. And I'm so glad. What my point was trying to be there was to point out that our Sikh friend with the turban has a name, Arjun. So we see you and we call you by name. And how long until our officer with the hijab gets a name? That will be an interesting, this season is done. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe it pops up by the end of the year, but it'll be interesting to see what season 5 brings. Maybe we'll have another simulation situation where we'll be able to get 50 of that anonymous crew named at once. We'll see. The other part of this whole thing is I kept expecting this to die down. It didn't. So here we are. Feels like a week later, but it's really just 6 days, right? 5-6 days. So maybe there's something there you hadn't known. Maybe there's some food for thought there as usual. I'm glad to have you aboard and thinking about that. And of course, I'm looking forward to see what happens in the chat. I'm looking forward to see if people try to call me out and get me corrected before I was realizing I had strayed so far. But one thing I want to make sure everybody realizes is that, I don't know, I'm feeling pretty good about things. People are out and about and traveling. I think we're about to have, though, our Star Trek is going to run out. We've got 4 or 5 more episodes of Lower Decks, and then it will be a drought until spring whenever they get around to airing Discovery. And we might hear that at New York Comic Con. It's a perfect time. It's a perfect time as you travel for the holidays, as you travel for business. Yeah. To get out to LA. And if you've never done it, if you've thought about it and never done, maybe this is the time to come in and schedule a Trekland Treks with me. It's your own custom away mission. I work with you to pick the places. Here's the menu of 50 sites. Some of them I have still not been to. I need to, especially some of the Picard places. But we can work on that. I'll be your host. I'll be your driver. Wherever you're staying, it's door to door, and I wrangle your props, your cosplay, whatever it is you want. Check it out, Trekland Treks. And you walk away with all the information about all the filming and location sites that you've picked. It's awesome, customized just for you. Hopefully, you can take advantage of that. The trickle of attention is starting to come back finally after the pandemic and the slowdowns. Some folks there's still plenty of dates open, but people are starting to call and get dates. Weekday, weekend, it doesn't matter as long as it fits the site that maybe you want to go to, right? That might depend on. So yes, of the things that are happening, I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to thanking our Trekland Tuesdays Live, our Patreon folk again. So thank you, Diana Hopkins, Lawrence Todd, Justin Porteous, Chris Jiggins, Comedy Forecast, Robin Wilson, Anne-Marie Siegel, Glinda Bruton, Pranakasha Productions, and Andrew Jazimski. And then our live wires are our slightly higher level. We're talking $5 and $10 levels, folks. So I keep it simple. But our live wires, thank you to, with this shout out, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Halbert Gudjonsson, Andrew Hohensee, Dave Gregory, Tobias Rex, Donna S. Runyon, and Kay Sishafsky. Thank you, thank you. The live wires, as their little extra tier bonus, get access to the first few years of Portal 47 backstage interviews from our guest nights, right? If you want to jump into, again, it's very simple. It's patreon.com/Trekland Live. It comes at the end of the month. We just started a new month. So thanks everybody who is a Patreon. I don't make a big deal out of my Patreon. It's there, very simple. Hopefully it's something you can do if you're not jumping on anything else. That's a Trekland service, all right? And hey, Trek Files is still on hiatus. We'll be back in a few weeks, but 10 seasons are there. Check it out. Facebook Trek Files is where our documents of the week are, which are, I say it's the only podcast with homework. Check it out there. We will be back in a few with some guests. We're already getting back in the can for our 11th season. Yeah, I know. And hey, if you are leaving us right now because you're watching later on YouTube, thanks for doing so. Make sure and comment below. The live folks are about to take off in the chat, but you can still comment here. You can still like and subscribe there on YouTube. And if you're looking around the interwebs, check me out. I'm still on X, Twitter, at Larry Nemechek. Same as it is here. Trekland is here. There, and also Instagram and even Facebook, Larry's Trekland. Portal47.net is your mini-con all year long. It's my business service for the fans that don't want the post-con blues. They want guests and information and community. And yeah, me sharing my archives all year long, every month. So check that out too. We are coming up very soon to open house dates. I'm a little slow to get the dates out there, but look for it in the next week. We'll be talking about our open house and our special guest when we open the doors for the portal and let everybody in. We've got some awesome, awesome things to give away too. Which reminds me, I think I promised an unboxing today, right? I did. So before we go, boom, my unboxings might look a little different than yours, but here we go. I know what this is. I am so excited. Have you been keeping up with the news? Yes. Prodigy Season 1, Part 2. Part 2 is now out with all kinds of expanded special features. It says right here, there's 45 minutes. Now, look, this is a half season. This is 10 episodes. They're half hours. So there is that, but there's 45 minutes of bonus content. Do we get bloopers? No, we don't get bloopers. There's deleted scenes. There's also character cards in the box. So whether you're a kid of 40 or a kid of 4, there's a lot of fun. The Prodigy set. So yes, this is still coming out from CBS Home Entertainment. People were bamboozled. Did you see this? To see the last very short treks where Prodigy was included in our friend Aaron Walton's litany of all the series, including the animateds, including Prodigy, because Paramount Plus is who canceled Prodigy. Paramount TV and CBS and Nickelodeon have not canceled the show. They're looking for a new home with 20 episodes already done. You know it's just a matter of time. And now, thanks to the erasure, you could not see the rest of season 2 until now. Now it is out on hard media. You can relive the episodes because, kids, by the second half of first season, this show was not just for kids. Things were getting pretty complex. The Federation politics, if you can believe this, were really starting to ramp up. There's the new player, the Val Nukat, but you've got Romulans in Neutral Zone and Borg and yes, and all the species that you love. The first encounter of 2 Tellarites on screen with speaking roles actually happened on. Anyway, it's lovely, and it as anything else, and some people will say this, Prodigy exhibits all those Gene Roddenberry values, the core of the Star Trek vision might be in its purest form for the kids and their adult parents and any adult who's smart enough to be watching. You might get the purest essence of Star Trek yet from Prodigy. And I'm so thrilled that part 2 of season 1 is out today. You can get it anywhere, Amazon, wherever you get your DVD. Check around. I'm sure there'll be sales from time to time. There's documentary reels. We've got the crew and cast talking. It's all there, and it is out. And I am so thrilled to finally get my copies. And this is going to be among the giveaways you want to watch for our open house date and register. So we can register and do giveaways as we do every year. We've got books, we've got DVDs coming or Blu-rays. Can't wait to do that. By next week, I'll be telling you about our open house. Alrighty, kids. That is going to do it for today. For now, I'll be right back to dive into the chat for at least 30 minutes or so. But I just want to say, if you are leaving us now on YouTube, hey, stay healthy, would you? It's still a bumpy world out there. Stay woke. Check the sources. And truck well, would you? All right. Okay, mea culpa. Going to see what kind of an editing job I can do on here. And if any of you were screaming at me. But it is good to see our TTLers. I hope we did have some new folk today, I didn't send them screaming in my ignorance. Oh, yikes. Yikes strikes by Beechnut. It's good to see everybody. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, good. We're all here. Oh, sorry, Christoph. Super Chat doesn't support Slips of Gold Press Latinum yet. Christoph coming to us from Western Australia. Let's see. Good to see everybody here. Of course, I'm always looking for real questions. Christoph. Shout out to Dr. Dave being in that NASA YouTube video. Or do they have lookalikes? Yes, Dr. Dave has to have a doppelganger for security reasons. Well, this is what I'm saying here. Cisco quoted the Bible in Far Beyond the Stars. Sun worshippers and TOS turned out to be worshiping the Son of God. That was a little controversial at the time. I don't know. I wasn't there in the airing. But I remember in the 70s and 80s, that line was, and it was a topic of conversation about, is that why Gene Coon left? And was that part of Gene Coon leaving? And Gene Roddenberry wasn't paying attention? But it was done on purpose. They wanted the wordplay as the twist to get out of the story. That was a case where the story drove it, and the writer's guide, whatever you thought, was out the window. All right. Carl, you weren't concerned about the headgear. Cations hunting and eat bazoids may be rising. That is what thank you. That's what I talked about. Not only Cations hunting, and even if it was hundreds of years ago, how would their distant planets, did they have warp drive they could traverse enough distance to make this a feasible thing? And were the betazoids, it has to be the Cations got to Beta Z, because if the betazoids were advanced enough to have interstellar travel, warp speed or close to it, they had to have had weapons that could defend themselves. Or what were the Cations so hyper powered with that that's what blew my mind. I know they were going to have a fun joke because Ta'ana was, they wanted a thing for the show. But oh my God, that's like saying that the Romulans and Federation never saw each other during the war. Humans, I guess. Oh. Yes, it's a completely background character, not part of the main plot at all. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, Nathaniel. Oh, hello, aggressively reacting. Someone who's played a Betazoid character on STO for a decade. Oh, you mean as a player? Okay. Not as voice cast. Thrilled to learn about the history of how the culture was depicted. Well, yes, we stop and think we had so much Loxana and Deanna, but how little about Beta Z we actually know. You have to lean on, right, the Battle of Beta Z book. Idic, this is what Star Trek is about. Well, you would think that, Dave. And as I said, I understand the people who interpreted Gene's vision to mean no religion. But I think what Gene's meaning there is it's not a dominant force, a power thing. It really does. If it can really return to what do individuals find meaning in, just as much as any philosophy, and there's a blurry, and then if Starfleet doesn't have dress codes, we had the whole thing about, and I didn't go into Rowan or Earring with Riker, but that was like Riker bearing down on her, because we saw lots of other Bajorans where, I mean, Kira didn't take her earring off when she was in a Starfleet uniform. Of course, they were underground at the time. Oh no, did we lose audio? Audio coming and going? How weird is that? Yes. Okay, I'm not up to where I started talking about him. Maybe I should just redo this again. This is going to be interesting to redo. This is amazing. Thank you, Sean. The way that Lower Decks, I love the way we're doing LDS in what is this lowercase thing? Why isn't Lower Decks good enough for an all capitals acronym like everybody else is? But the way Lower Decks has all these one-line characters, the way a regular show can't for background. Well, regular shows have background, but then they never talk until it's the finale and they get a bone for their loyalty. Yeah, Lower Decks has all that vast array of background characters, and you never know when one of them's going to pop up and say something. I just want to know, between Mike and the writers and all the art staff, how many of those are drawn as caricatures of themselves or people they know? How many of them they know in their head, or they have a jokey name? Like Mike Westmore used to have the joke names for some of the nondescript aliens that they did on DS9 especially. And then they got named that in the end. Rotsivs, because it was backwards of Victor, who was the main extra that wore that makeup. Yeah. But that's what they can do. They're not having to worry about, are they paying that actor something or not? They just draw it again. And eventually, if it has lines, they'll hire a voice actor or maybe a guest star. Maybe it becomes a big deal. Taylor the Kazine is hysterical. Yeah, Dan, I forgot it till late, but yes, absolutely. Well, this is what analysis, this is like, if you go with this strict interpretation, that's your inevitable conclusion. It's okay for aliens to, but we can't. Well, it's not about you. I don't think there's a United Earth law for its natives. What Gene was saying was that it's no longer a driving force that's so huge and so, what's the word I want? Irrational. Because faith is faith. That was the conflict that you saw on Bajor. Now, it was the fundamentalists, Vedic Burial's sect, and a lot of the other sects didn't have. No, it was, we saw, I hope we don't see all of Bajor's spiritualism through the Kai Wynn. Kyle Paka didn't seem to have that kind of an issue. So again, texture not trivia, species diversity, cultural diversity. There are factions. That's more realistic. There are all kinds of shades of gray. Oop, I didn't mean to invoke that. So once again, it's another thing against, we used to talk about cardboard villains, like the Klingons were replacement Russians and the Romulans were replacement Red Chinese. But you can have cardboard characters just as much. And, you know, this whole thing about what is the monoculturalism, that everybody in the whole population is the same. That's what Tendi is always, you know, going on about with Orions. I think it's a thing that once you let, you know, with humans, once you let faith and a deity worship get out of the bag, then you're going to have a cult and you'll have people demanding power and you have head banging. No, my cult's better than your cult or denomination or whatever. And that's what Gene was saying he hoped we outgrew. If religion can just become individualized, where people get the good for themselves and don't worry about trying to organize a following or an army, then there's that. What is religion but armed philosophical? You know, at least in our modern eyes, in the future, if denominational thought, religious thought, just becomes another form of a philosophy where it's harmless for harming others that are non-believers, that would be the ultimate goal. That's what Gene was getting to here. Yeah. Our hijabi wearing officer here could be in the same league as people who do Christmas but don't celebrate, they don't follow Christianity religiously. Yeah. They don't see being antithetical to atheism or agnosticism. There are some groups, Nathaniel, you're saying that you're interrupted there, that don't see being religious or identifying with a religion as being antithetical to atheism or agnosticism. Here we go. Analysis. You're agnostic and religious discrimination pisses you off. To fellow Star Trek fans, discrimination is discrimination, especially against religion. We have Gene's vision to live up to. The Gene's vision of Idic, right? DS9, of course, is inspired by Babylon 5. I don't know about that. Well, this is supposedly it. Again, I think this whole kerfluffle blew up, and there may be a core of anti-Islamicism to it. But I still think a lot of it were people who are thinking no religion in Star Trek, and they're just not looking at some of the clues. It's in a way, and I hate to go here, in a way, it's a tandem to that thing about Star Trek has always been political. Star Trek is always the people that want to use that word woke. I mean, infinite diversity, infinite combinations, 1967. It's kind of hard to get away from that. Diversity is beautiful. Diversity means you're not stagnating. Diversity means somebody else might have a better idea from your limited background, or even your huge background. There still might be something out there that's worth putting in your pile. I mean, if you think about it, the Borg are the most idiot-loving people out there. Yes, we'll take everybody. We won't let you go, but we'll take you. Well, who was it they didn't want? The Kazon? Okay. It's all business to the Borg. It's all business. Nothing personal. You're just not worthy. Yeah. And, you know, Christoph, you're saying basically you're in Gene's camp here. All secular politics and society. And of course, here in the States, we talk about the wall between church and state. Seems to be under attack lately. For one thing, people can't agree about their faith. I love how everybody thinks this is a black and white issue. It's like the black or white, whatever you want to say, whichever one is the religion color versus state. Okay, now get those people to agree, because then you wind up with Cromwell. You wind up with oh, look, there's three major sects of the Muslim faith, of the Jewish faith. There's 47,000 sects in America of Protestantism, much less Catholicism in there too. Well, this is funny. It could just be a fashion thing. If it was a fashion thing, though, now I've seen some people talk about, well, you know, if headgear were fine for anybody to do, then how would you prevent Romulans from getting aboard. The way Spock always disguises his ears, and well, you've got the eyebrows and the forehead and everything else. And then you've got the safety issue. And you have this issue playing out in a lot of countries that aren't as, what is it, France? It may be even a thing in parts of the US, but you have this whole thing about, I'm sorry, this isn't about religion, it's about safety. That'll get caught in the mechanical rice picker. And then, there's complications like that to all of this. Oh, okay. Analysis, you've corrected me. Yes, there you go. Thank you. Everyone's an atheist until they see the giant glowing koala. Well, thank you, Analysis. You were trying to tell me. Seek, seek, seek. Seek, and I shall find. Okay. What TOS says humankind outgrows is the pantheon of Greek gods in Who Mourns for Dons. But there are nonetheless tons of reference to ancient Greek and Minoan mythology and Star Trek. True. It becomes a cultural thing. A lot of people have no trouble referencing Bible stories to make their point as a cultural touchstone. Right. Hi, Dominic. Discussing this on the Mission Log Discord. Thanks so much for addressing it. I was saying it'd be interesting to see what an enlightened future religion would like now, and Kaiwen is a bad example, blowing up a school. Yes. What does the Catholic Church look like in 2380 if it is around? Are the nuns finally in charge? There's been some headlines about this. The current Pope has just said he's open. He thinks the church can now bless same-sex marriage, which is a huge step. It's like the civil unions we had before here in the States. And that he's open to looking about making women clerics to study that for the future. I don't know about you wind up saying you'd like to see an episode of Trek addressing that. I don't know. One might say Trek is choose your god. Mythologies have thousands to choose from. Right. Full screening. Oh, of course it did. Full screening the image killed the sound. That's what it was. Well, I've learned a lesson. Thanks, guys. If I take myself out to full screen, yes, I took myself out. Duh. You were lightly screaming "seek," but not loudly. This is going to be one of those that maybe I should just, for the reruns for the West Coast, maybe I should retape this. Oh my gosh. Really? Amazing in its clumsiness. Oh, Dominic, thank you for saying that. Well, yeah. Now the Vulcans don't do it because it's a Jewish blessing and a Jewish gesture, but Leonard appropriated it. Jewish appropriation, cultural appropriation. Analysis, you're saying what is you're saying that the whole brouhaha over her hijab is hypocrisy, and it's shame to be a Star Trek fan right now. No, don't be this, because don't fall for the trap that the kerfluffle is all fandom, number one, and number two, don't overlook this can be a teachable moment. We're talking about this. We're discussing this. I think a lot of people sincerely go along with the little box of no religion in Star Trek, or they at least say no religions on Earth, no Earth-based religions, because we, whatever. And organized religion, and then uber organized religion who see that as a power thing, and they're threatened by other religions. That's part of this too. You sit in your square and let somebody else have their square. There you go. Now, what now, Carl? Analysis? Oh. Point was just us being hypocritical. Okay, fine. You want to see me do a Trekland Tuesday in a mirror universe? What do you have the thing? Do you have an ion storm and a transporter handy? Do you have the little gizmo that they used on DS9? Religion has been stealing stuff from older. That's very true. So much of the cultural bits of Christmas were all stolen from the Druids and the pagans. Yes, yeah. In your mind, Nimoy turned the table. Okay, very good. Went Jewish to yeah. What William? The purple, you mean him? That's my Murph. That's the Murph from New York Comic Con last year that friends got for me. Anne Marie got that for me and got it to me at the next time we saw each other at a con. Well, hey, Kyle, this is true too. The thin line between holding on to things because they're religious versus it just became cultural and family traditions. Very true. It is merchandise. I hope not. I hope there's plenty of moopsies for everybody and also plenty of Murphs. I just think Murph is not quite as cute since he grew, arms and legs. Hey, Robert, people genuinely fear with it. That's our primal human survival instinct, but we're supposed to have developed this to override the primal taking over every time. Moopsie dice. Yes, Kyle, moopsie dice. In fact, I want to go to a florist and get some moopsie daisies. Yeah. Real question. If Strike Things continue to go warp speed, how fast could we see Strange New World Season 3 filming next Monday? I have heard that when the writers were basically settling that physical production was they were close to filming. They were a week away from starting filming. So yes, we may see now the actors are still out. But remember, when the writers went on strike, they were a week away from filming, I heard. 2 at the most. So once the actors are clear to go back, hopefully within the next week or 2, then hopefully we'll have cameras rolling and you may see some vague postings from cast that whatever CBS or Paramount lets them post. What is this? Hopefully by the middle of October, end of October, I'm saying, we might see filming starting back on Strange New Worlds. And then what is it, 6 months? Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But Strange New Worlds was very close. They were almost ready to go. They were basically ready to start filming on episode 1. Absolutely. Your son, Cannon Police, says the anti-Gordon weapons that Pike brought out in the last episode should have been bamboo cannons. Yes, with diamonds and sulfur. And bears, oh my. Thank me for being level-headed. What do you think sanity, clarity, and the bigger picture means, huh? Yeah. Everybody just chill, cool down for a second. What did I think of the very short Treks episodes, Holloway's All the Way Down? Well, I thought it was the one that got the mix of comedy and whatever. I thought it was a funny thing. I thought it was mind-bending. I thought it started off followable, right? It was like looking at Moriarty's cube and a cube and a cube. And then it got silly at the end. Just about the time you thought this might be usable as canon. Then it got crazy at the end. And so that's fine. But I loved it just because it was so representative. And people lost their socks when the Prodigy characters turned up. But it was great. Talk about representation. Everybody got represented in cool ways. And you got to see, even if you didn't hear them, you got to see so many people. Shout out especially, I haven't told Aaron this or put it out line, but thank you. When they're in the TOS scenario, Sulu says rec deck. He doesn't say holodeck or holosuite. He says rec deck or simulator. He says rec deck. I love that. Yeah, well, glad to have the new release with the cards. I haven't busted this open, as you saw, but no, the cards have been a cool thing. It's cool to have physical media for anything for Prodigy. Sad to say. And hopefully once it finds a home and there's 40 episodes out there, and maybe there can be a critical mass finally, maybe some of the licensing deals will come through. It's not for lack of trying on licensing part. It's those toy makers that want to act like there's somebody watching the show. Can we have some numbers, please? Yeah. Interesting, Zahir. You always thought it was unrealistic that religion completely died out after World War III. But this would have been a great topic for Ollie and I if we ever do another life support. I'm sure we will. When we do a life support live special, this would be a good topic. Future religion and the impact on society. What was the reaction to World War III and First Contact? I've always thought First Contact, whatever form it took, would be the one thing that finally made us stop internally fighting each other, because then the other would be out there. And I say that worried that then it's like V or something, or it's, like your classic alien invasion. It's us versus them. Oh, we're all together now. All the people of the world are together because we're fighting them. It's like, how about we all get together because we've had our consciousness altered? That would be a good thing. There wasn't anything Picard in holograms all the way down, so it wasn't really cater all the tricks there, but most. Well, I think they're thinking Riker and Troy, and yeah. And what, the only Voyager was Neelix? Okay. Yeah, I know. I was saying hijabis. I keep trying to make it like a Kadabi, which is wrong. It's a hijab. Yes, I know, Chappelle. Thank you for coming over from Twitch, by the way. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you for the reminder, Scott. We had the audio Trek Files is up, but we have a great special video. The way I had Andy Kindred last year, we filmed my special live at Star Trek Vegas 2 Trek Files with Aaron Weltke. The first one is up. The audio is much better. Just gonna say. Wow. Sean, this may be my first super chat in euros. Thank you. Oh, you're doing the trivia. Okay. Are you asking me, or is this for the group? Are you doing this for the chat group? I'll let the chat group answer. I'm also way behind, so. What are you saying? In the GSA countries, Amazon has Prodigy season 1, the whole really, they have a combined title. There you go. But it's out tomorrow. Okay. To serve Beta Z. Yes, the Great Cation bestseller. I mean, really, hundreds of years ago? Is that a millennia? Is that less than a millennia? Like, is that 600-700 years? What? Now they shall sing songs and write pro novels of this, much less fan fiction. Dan is saying Roddenberry's on report as having derided the writer bred the circuses and not having known his stuff about the ancient Romans. Okay. Well, that's true, William. I wasn't going to say anything, but there you go. Lower decks. Wow. Hi, BadX from Zambia. I think you might be our first viewer from Africa. I'm trying to think if anyone from North Africa has been part of the conversation. But welcome. Wow. Welcome. What time? It's getting late for you, right? It's midnight, 1 a.m. Thinking. Zambia's on East Africa, right? Yes. I think. This is true. This is true. Focus on the real enemy, REEL. Okay, very funny, Sean. Yes, yes. The Yule time or the Yule tide is very different from Christmas holiday. Christmas trees, gift giving, snowmen, Christmas lights. Is Yule time isn't like the Bible or the holiday. Absolutely. In fact, there are a lot of Christian religions that dump on celebrating Christmas because of this very fact. There are some denominations that either are very strict about Christmas or they don't celebrate the modern aspect of Christmas because they say it's been watered down and isn't about celebrating. In fact, they'll even say it's, scientists talk about how whether you're tracking the comet as the star or whatever, that December as a birth date month was picked to coincide with Saturnalia to bring in more pagans and make them Christians. That Jesus Christ's actual birthday as a real person was probably in the spring. If you look at the migration patterns of, all kinds. And of course, this is one of those great things, how many, angels dance on the head of a pin things. But in the overlap, such as it is, of real science and trying to use the Bible as a historical record and looking through the allegorical, fuzziness, that December was just picked to overlap with the winter solstice and Saturnalia and all of that. And that's some modern denominations' unease or refusal to even do Christmas the way it's celebrated, and don't celebrate Christmas, not because they don't believe that they don't follow Christ as a prophet and a savior, but they don't like what the modern interpretation of his birthday has turned into, they see it as false. So that's from one gamut to the other. Mm-hmm. Not to turn this into a world theology comparisons. Interesting, Dan. I will try to look that up because, as we know, Pat Tallman was on both. Much larger sense on Bab 5, actually, obviously, but she was there. What are you saying, Nathaniel? If all the Trek creators were polled, they would say that humans should lead. Religion has a voice, but it can't survive if it remains inflexible and can't suppress the agency of individuals. Well, yes. That thing, though, about the human leadership, well, it's an American show made for human viewers of all countries. So, of course, someday we will have a Klingon show. Someday we will have a centric, right? Someday we will have an Andorian centric, maybe a mini series, whatever. I know the practicality. It's the same thing of all you guys around the world going, it's so American centric. Well, that's who's making it. And that's who the biggest audience is. Even you're just spoiled by Gene struggling to make it multi-planetary, much less multi-human. But I'm just saying that the pushback against human-centric federation is dramatic fodder. It doesn't have to be, we're at war. There's a long time tension here about Vulcan and Romulus as a triangle, the love triangle between Vulcan, Romulus, and the rest of the Federation, led by Earth. That seems to be a little bit of a tension point at times over the centuries. But even more than that, I just always wondered why everybody it's one thing to be the big brother in the room, but do you have to act like it? It's an allegory there to the US and the UN. You wear your ball cap backwards because it helps your team win. Speaking of headgear, right. Sean, you grew up in Ireland and you are not religious. If somebody's being lazy about having to walk, did the Lord above not bless you with legs? Will spill out of my mouth without a thought. Like a Temerian. Exactly. Pike being subjected to hellfire, right? This is what I'm saying. Yes, absolutely. You probably wrote that before I said it. Yes. Oh, if I mirrored my camera and shaved my beard, I could be Mirror Universe. Okay, not going to happen. Unless I'm getting paid to do a role. Yeah, exactly. This is what happened. I think when Christianity came to Rome, same thing. Subsumed a lot of the pagan gods, called them saints, same ways Islam has prophets, religion just copy and adapt. There you go. There you go. Yes, Dominic, you can, except it's going to be a long one, so it's not going to all show in one, but I will start with you. Humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day that begins, not just to tolerate, but to take special delight in differences in ideas, in differences in life forms. The worst possible thing that can happen to all of us, you're quoting Gene, is what you're doing here. The worst possible thing can happen to all of us is for the future to somehow press us into a common mold where we begin to act and talk and think alike. If we cannot learn to actually enjoy these small differences, to take a positive delight in those differences between our own kind here on this planet, then we do not deserve to go out into space and meet the diversity that's almost certainly out there. Gene Roddenberry, about 1974. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, Don. You got in a little late there. Hey, William, am I working on a book lately? A lot of video, working on the Con of Wrath. I'd love to do a book, but I've got too much stuff piled up already that's not finished. That very short trek was better than the first three for you. I think that's kind of a general consensus, probably more than general. But I know some folks enjoyed the first couple. What are we doing here? I didn't set my timer, so we'll see. Okay. Well, thank you, Zahir, for my mea culpa there. Regardless of whether the hijabi or Arjun is a practicing Muslim or Sikh, or just likes wearing hijabi or turban, you appreciate the representation. Well, then, if they're not practicing, here's the thing then. If they're not practicing, and that's why Starfleet allows it, then is it what does Starfleet have no dress code about headgear then, and everybody else just prefers not to mess with it? Or are they getting special dispensation? Is it okay if there's an issue now with, like saying the Native American peoples who use, hallucinogenic plant drugs for their religious ceremonies, and they're allowed to, whereas the same thing would be illegal for some WASP out there. There's a sticky point there that we're still navigating. Yeah, like blowing up schools that teach scientific facts. Yeah, nobody's saying that's the whole thing. Gene's quote there about not harming others, basically. Will Rogers had a thing there. You can get how do you define liberty? He's talking liberty the way we talk about freedom. And you're entitled to all the liberty you can get and hold on to, as long as it doesn't take away from somebody else's liberty, basically, which is kind of what we've always lived by, common sense. Right. Oh, you think I should do a life support live dealing with religion? Oh, with Ollie. That would be interesting. Well, this is the evolution of scale. Yeah. Italy broke into 30 city-states. They all warred and fought. You get all the dukes from the Shakespeare plays. Now, it's crazy to think Venice could go to war with Rome. It's part of a bigger whole. Exactly. In a more cautionary way, you had the real quick evolution of the American colony states into a unified country with a central power. Of course, you've always got people that want to throw a tantrum and throw that out the window. But there you go. Let's see. Oh. Wow. Good evening to you, coming into us from Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm curious how you found how we are. But welcome. Two from Africa, the whole continent. I know it's a big continent. But it's great to see you. I haven't seen any of our Latin Americans, our Brazilian folk haven't been in today yet. All right. Most every Christian tradition doesn't go back more than 200 years. You say Christian, like Santa Claus has nothing to do with the Bible. The Easter Bunny has nothing to do with the Bible, you know. Yes. Hans Christian Andersen and Charles Dickens invented most of our Christmas lore, along with Clement C. Moore in The Night Before Christmas, right? And the reindeer and all of that. Yes, indeedy. I am... This is funny, Sean. America-centric sci-fi has taught you that if aliens do invade, they'll only blow up the U.S. and the rest will be safe. Weren't there like some token stock shots in Independence Day? Didn't they blow up the Eiffel Tower or something? Or Big Ben? I don't know. The Kremlin? Taj Mahal? You know, the greats. Oh, are we at the end of the chat? We may be at the end of the chat. I think we are. Cool, guys. Well, we will see. I've learned that if I go full screen on something besides me, the audio drops, obviously. That's the way Restream works. I should have known that. But that was such an intricate picture. I wanted to get it. Oh, well. I've learned. So, yes. Prodigy is out now. Season 1, part 2 is out. Look for the deal where you can. There's a lot of bonus features. There's some cool stuff. I've been watching people talk about it. I can't wait to read it and watch it myself. I may do a separate review at some point, some way. But glad to have that out there. Yay. Glad to have you with us once again. And once again, I am so glad to have my Patreon folk. Thank you all so much. We're gradually growing this. We may be making some tweaks to a few things in a few months, but I really, really appreciate all of you all for being part of my Patreon right now. And of course, again, it's $5, $10, very simple, patreon.com/Trekland Live. Yay. Thanks so much. And once more, the Trek Files is on hiatus, but there's a huge catalog there and some folks that are no longer with us. You can check it all out at the Trek Files on Facebook. It's where the documents are too. You can download the documents. Podcast.roddenberry.com for all the Roddenberry podcasts. Some of them are on hiatus because of the strike. Mission Log is, but there's some specials, but some of that may be ending. If we can get these actors back, wouldn't that be cool? And if they are, you can follow me everywhere. Larry Nemechuk on the Twitter, X. Larry's Trekland, Larry Nemechuk's Trekland on Facebook, yes. And Instagram. Go over there too, please. Share that around too, as well as YouTube. Like and subscribe if you haven't done yet. Ring the bell. Portal47.net is your minicon all year long. Your insider's guide, moi, to best backstage Trek ever. Thank you so much for being with us today. I wasn't going to say anything about this. I thought it would blow over, but apparently not. And I just wanted to say, not only do we have our Sikh gentleman, he has a name. Use his name, as they chant. Arjun is out there. I hope he gets a line someday. That's the next thing. I hope our hijab female officer gets a line at some point too. I almost hope that at some point, and it may be 5th season now, that we get some kind of Mike and Company meta commentary about this whole situation. They love to do little meta commentaries poking fun at everything about fights over comm badges and uniforms and the status of Starfleet. If they do that, maybe we'll have a circle around a thoughtful episode about this whole thing too. Anyway, I'm looking forward. If everything goes well next week, I'll have a guest next week and several coming up, in fact. So for more on that and for more about news about Open House, stick with us. Meanwhile, guys, please stay healthy, do all the things. Stay woke, check the sources. It's getting crazier and crazier out there with the deep fakes. And trek well, everybody.